Greetings, kids and nerds. I'm Lady Universe and White and Nerdy. I know I don't have nothing appropriate to wear for this, so I just decided that my Jet Skellington shirt would work better for this because animation, it works good, right? That's okay. But yeah, I've actually gotten a chance to actually see a lot of animated films this year, like Inside Out 2, Kung Fu Panda 4, and this one was a surprise to me only because I've heard a lot of people talk about it. And they said very good things about it, especially since this comes from um, Illumination, who mostly is most known for Despicable Me series and also the Minions, which mostly consist of like mostly jokes aimed at like younger children, like basically fart or flash-on jokes and whatnot. And I'm surprised that that's not what this is. It's actually a genuine, really good family movie that anybody can watch. So I've finally gotten the chance to actually sit down and actually enjoy and and enjoy Illumination Migration. Yeah, I'm sorry for the glare. It's just that it's dark and gloomy outside. So I had to take my lampshade off my lamp in order to get more light in here because it's dark and gloomy and storming outside. So this is just the best that you get. But I've actually gotten a chance to see Migration, and now I'm here to talk about it with all of you guys. This will be my review, retrospective, whatever you want to call it, upon Migration. So if nobody has seen Migration yet, but you're watching this review, just be forewarned that there will be some slight spoilers. So again, if you haven't seen Migration yet, I recommend that you do, and then come back and watch this review. And please do, because this is a really good movie. Otherwise, there will be spoilers, but please enjoy the review. Migration comes to us from the creative mind of Benjamin Renner, and I think that he actually is the best choice for a movie like this, because if you watch the behind the scenes stuff in this, which I would recommend, he really talked about how he got into his creative thought process into this and everything, and especially since he's the father of a young daughter who voices Gwen in this movie, really goes to show you that he really put everything that he could into this and made it a lot more wonderful than honestly I was expecting. Also, was a very good all-star cast in it as well, but we're not gonna focus on basically the all-star cast. But that's why I'm recommending that you guys watch the bonus features, including the Meet the Cast, where you can take a look at who voiced who in this movie. Very wonderful things. So, how would you make a movie about ducks going on migration? Well, you have ducks, and you give them a destination, and pretty much that's it. But there are some things that I do have to complain about with migration, but we'll get into that more later. So let's dive into Elimination Migration and see how this family of ducks simply kind of won my heart for this time of year. We open up to a story being told by the Mallard family, who, of course, have never gone on migration, and yet they want to stay in the comfort and safety of their own home. You learn that the Mallards mostly keep safe and mostly are in safety within their own comfort of their own home, but yet they want to broaden their horizons and go on new adventures and look for new things. Which is what happens when a family of ducks basically come into the place of where they're staying or where they're living and tell them all about this magical thing called migration that they want to go on. And after some wise words from his Uncle Dan, voiced by the great Danny DeVito, Mr. Mallard finally realized that he should go on a vacation with his kids, otherwise he'd end up like his uncle. But yes, as every crazy, wacky, wild family film, they get into some crazy, wacky, and wild antics, like meeting a family of crazy and wild herons.
Maybe herons are not good enough for you? Mallards?
No, of course not. We're happy to stay.
Done with you. Now you slimy.
It's a trap.
Even for an animated adaptation of a family of ducks, this is still relatable because we've all had that one really awkward road trip where things like this have happened. You meet different people or random people, and they kind of leave an impact on you. It's crazy, but it's great. I also love the different dynamics of the family. The father is paranoid. Everything about him is paranoia, and you also learn that the father is kind of a homebody. He doesn't like to leave the safety of home. His wife is basically his guardian angel, so to speak, but she not only just protects him to protect him, she wants to kind of open up her wings and spread it to her surroundings and kind of see what other life out there is like. And of course, you have the children, but they're the children. And then, of course, like any other family, you have the crazy uncle. Why do you have the crazy uncle? Is anybody guess? But I have a crazy uncle. You have a crazy uncle. Everybody in the world has that one crazy uncle that you can abide by. But I like that the film kind of goes like, it's because that his Uncle Dan has gone crazy. Not necessarily. It's because he's more paranoid and doesn't want to leave the net. And then when he sees what kind of he would become, he decides to do it not just for his sake, but for his family's sake. And in so, he kind of ends up becoming this very creative hero. It's almost like Don Quixote, so to speak, this man who's afraid to fight, but he becomes a hero in doing his crazy quest anyways. And I love that, they always say that it's that a hero is somebody that's brave to fight the good fight. They're not a hero because of what they do. They're brave because they face off against dangerous situations because they know that somebody needs them in the end of things, and that is the brilliant part of this, and what makes Mr. Mallard of the family basically really does stand out. But I have to kind of admit that the movie kind of stretches itself just a little bit to get it to an hour and a half long. And I kind of have to say, in a sense, that kind of hindered the film, which I know they're going to introduce everybody in the cast, like Aquafina and Keegan Michael Key and everything, but they really do stretch the story of what's going on a lot more than they probably should, so to speak. I know that this is about a family that never went on migration before, but they really do stretch this is a family that is inexperienced and out of their comfort zone area. And also for a movie like this, Illumination decided it wasn't just enough just to have a family for the kids to enjoy. No, we need to have a villain for a movie like this. And so the movie decides to have a villainous chef going after the birds because the bird dare unleash his pet parakeet on the world. The point, or most of the point of the movie, is that it's about birds being free. The freedom to fly, the freedom to really spread your wings, and that's a beautiful and powerful message. The problem is that this movie did not need a villain that's basically very, very cartoonishly evil, and I mean incredibly so. There's even a part of this movie where they go to a farm and they meet a cult of ducks. But not just any type of cult of ducks, psychedelic ducks.
You're so lucky. You're just in time.
Which at the end of it, they all go to Jamaica. So they all finally reach the destination that they have all been waiting for the entire movie to finally naturally get to. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing against having a villain in the movie, but what? And it's just a chef. He doesn't have a name. He doesn't even have a voice actor. He's just a chef. That's it. That's all we know. That's all we get. And I think that for a kid's movie like this, it's kind of like you don't need a villain. I mean, you could have had like a villainous bird. With the herons. But that's just a joke. They never go anywhere with the herons. They're just a joke character. The chef being in this really had no point to being in here. Like I said, the message behind the film is basically for people to learn how to spread your wings, enjoy new things, experience new things, and, try to find some enjoyment out of these little things that you experiment. And that is a great message, especially for kids. Telling kids like, hey, try to open and broaden your horizons. It's great. The thing is, did you really need the damn chef to do this? I I mean, in all seriousness, did you really need a damn chef in doing this? Because every time I watch this movie, I'm like, it's good, and it is. It's brilliant. It's like, but the chef could have been cut out. You could have had the chef completely ignored and just kind of have it be a family dynamic. I'm reminded of a movie that this should have copied off of, which is Johnson's Family Vacation, where a family just goes on a crazy wild road trip to a family reunion. Why couldn't this have just been a group of birds going on a wild and wacky migration trip? It almost wants to be that, and it almost gets there, but then someone in the writing department went, or producing department went, But you know what this movie needs? This movie needs a villain. We have to have a villain in this movie. And it's a chef. Like, I need a villain in this movie, so go and get a chef. And realizing this, I realize that sometimes a movie has to have a villain to kind of like give it a purpose and have it go somewhere from point A to point B, and that's great and everything. But at the same time, every time I watch this movie, I almost want to have a mental breakdown like when Buzz Lightyear became Mrs. Nesbit.
I think you've had enough tea for today. Let's get you out of here, Buzz.
Don't you get it? You see the hat? I am Mrs. Nesbit.
I've also noticed with Illumination, nothing against the writers in that company or anything, but they can't, for the life of them, write villains properly. And I don't know really why that is. They wrote a sympathetic villain when it comes to the form of Gru, when he went from a villain to a hero, but in a sense, they can't write villains very well. And I don't know why that is. They just can't really fully understand like what makes a good villain a good villain. And as good as the Despicable Me movies are, there always is that one hitch in the flaw where it's like, yeah, but the villain's plot is to do this. Just like in the original Despicable Me movie, the villain's plot was to steal the moon. Not a very good villainous plot. Again, I know that you're an animation company for kids, but there's a difference between a good villain and then just a wacky, out there, really strange, what the hell are you doing villain. And that's when Illumination kind of draws itself towards mostly. But as a family film that basically is about a family of ducks going on an adventure, it is a great and wonderful movie. The animation is beautiful, the music is spectacular, and the voice acting, my god, did they pick the right people for the voice acting department. I mean, really just aimed everything at their characters the best that they could, and really just, it was very good from beginning to end. For me, migration was a little bit of a treat that to behold. It was something of, sort of like a treat that you just find hidden somewhere, and it really did surprise me, like how very good it was. Because by hearing about it by word of mouth, I'm like, this movie can't be as good as people saying that it is, but it actually turned out to be, well, pretty damn awesome in its own regards. That's why my Funko Pop rating of Migration is going to be a magic, because while it doesn't look like much at first, you will be surprised by what is hidden inside of this magnificent treat. So, my Funko Pop rating of Migration is going to become a magic. By the way, before I end this video off, guess who's one of the writers behind Migration? The same guy who wrote School of Rock, Mike White. So while I did not know this until putting this video together, never really paid attention, it was written by the director too, so he was a co-writer. Mike White is very good at, writing family pictures, like, for example, School of Rock, like I mentioned. And yet somehow this kind of feels a little inferior to something like School of Rock. So that does explain why he becomes a zombie in Zombieland. Well, and in case you're wondering if that's a lie, no. He becomes a zombie in Zombieland. I think it's, very fitting. Like, basically after School of Rock, and when he wrote this, he suddenly became a guest store clerk and then became a zombie afterwards. Probably had no regrets in writing this. I'm not saying that it's a bad movie, but could have done without the villainous plot, is all I'm saying. Still a great movie. Still really enjoyable. Beautiful animation, fantastic voice acting, whatnot, but could have ignored the villain, is all I'm saying. So much love to Mike White. Much love. But, villains are not your good party, brother. Is all I'm trying to say. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to tell me what you thought about migration in the comments down below. And as always, I've been like Universe. I want new to keep you on, and if you want to help the channel and support it grow, the best way to do so is by liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, hitting that bell icon so you can be notified every single time I make an upload. And if you want to see what I'm doing behind the scenes or whatever, then you can follow me at Twitter with a link in the description down below. But thank you guys so much for watching. I believe Universe. I want new to keep you on, and until next time, guys, as always, take care.